Welcome to the program. I'm H. Wayne Wilson. Thank you so much for joining us. For the next half hour, we're going to be talking about a sales tax referendum. The one we're going to talk about specifically is in McLean County, but those of you in Peoria County, DeWitt County, and some others may want to pay particular attention also, because you'll be facing the same question in your county in the spring primary. And it concerns construction of school facilities. It's called the County School Facility Occupation Tax Law, which allows the county to implement in quarter cent increments a 1%, up to a 1% sales tax increase to cover construction, and that includes old construction as well as new construction. We're going to be talking about that with the superintendents of the two largest school districts in McLean County. Let me first introduce to you Dr. Barry Riley. Dr. Riley is the superintendent for District 87 schools, which is Bloomington, basically speaking.
Correct. Thank you.
And across the table is Dr. Gary Niehaus. Dr. Niehaus is the superintendent for Unit 5, which is Normal and some outlying communities.
That's correct.
And with that, let me turn to you, Dr. Riley, and just what is the basic concept here for your school district? What are you hoping to accomplish?
Well, Bloomington Schools, like a lot of school districts in the county and in the state of Illinois, have ongoing facility needs. And when you look at how we fund those ongoing needs, those are done by property tax owners. The vast majority of that work is paid for in that way. A countywide sales tax provides another option to have money paid for by people who not only live in the county but who spend money in the county. And so this is another funding source at a time when revenues are hard to come by for local school districts, because we're getting less money at the local, state, and federal level. And so in ways to seek out funding sources or additional revenues, this is one way that we can do that at a time where all of us are reducing expenses across the board, and it's tough to keep up with those drop in revenues.
And so that we can clarify this right from the very start, this is only for capital improvements, is that correct?
Only for buildings and facilities, and it's a very, very narrow scope, and I think it was designed that way, and we're happy with it being that way, actually.
It does not address the transportation fund, it does not address the education fund, and that of course is the fund that has the biggest chunk of expense.
That's very true, and it really does, it's very, very narrow in scope, and it's exactly what I think the legislature wanted, and I think it's what we needed, and I think it adds to this piece that Barry just talked about. I mean, in the state of Illinois, we do have school construction grants. Those are now just coming up. We're starting to pay for the 2004. So money from the state looks like it's been 10 years away. And so communities that had needs, waiting 10 years is not a possibility. And Unit 5 and District 87 and the McLean County Schools, we'd like to keep up with that on a year-to-year basis and make that a revenue stream that we can keep up with our maintenance, our facilities, our repairs, our needs as we go along versus relying on a state or a maintenance grant from the state. Again, those are not consistent, and they aren't consistent revenues for us.
Is that, along that same line of thought, is that the reasoning behind not going to a referendum for a property tax increase for construction of schools or fixing of roofs or things of that nature?
Certainly. I think when you talk to individuals anywhere in this state, and you can do that across the country as well, I think people are a little fed up with property taxes, how they keep escalating. And really, that's the local source. The vast majority of where our money comes from is from those local property taxes. And so everybody, I'm a property tax payer, I know that you guys are as well. Every year that just seems to increase and increase, and a lot of that money goes to the schools. That's because we're getting less money from the state, the feds, and again, this is a way that we can hopefully provide some property tax relief through this sales tax.
So explain how that might work when we talk about property tax relief. You have bonds that you've already issued for past construction.
Correct.
And you would pay those off?
Well, we would use a portion of that money to pay, in District 87's case, we would use a portion of that money to pay it down our bond debt. and the other portion we would use to fund our ongoing and future projects. And in that regard, paying down that debt would in essence provide some property tax relief.
Would that be the case in Unit 5 as well?
In Unit 5 for us, we're just coming off a 2008 referendum where we just passed $96.7 million in funding bonds, or building bonds. We would pay those off in 2024. And really, honestly, what we need right now is to be able to pay those off with our property interest, and then the sales tax would take care of the renovations, repairs, the maintenance, and potentially some new facilities that we may need for our future.
In fact, you're talking, at least in a 10-year plan, you're looking at the possibility of a new elementary school?
I think our east side pressure is there. It's something that we have to continue to consider. We've been through our second redistricting process in Unit 5 since we built our new schools. So actually we built 3.5 new schools. 2.5 of those were new elementary schools. 2 of those 3 are already at capacity. And so this past summer, we actually moved students again. We actually opened our Brigham site to an elementary kindergarten classrooms. So our Cedar Ridge site, our Benjamin site were both full, over capacity actually. And so the point is that if we continue to grow, and I think that's always going to be an issue in Unit 5, how long will this last? But it's lasted for me, my 7 years, and several more plus that. And so what we need to do is figure out how much growth we're going to have, what capacities we have, and relieve that east side pressure that we tend to have, because that's where most of the new construction goes in Bloomington Normal.
In addition to the possibility of a new elementary school, what other improvements might this money be dedicated to?
Well, one of the kind of crazy things that happened in Unit 5 just about 2 years ago this time was Chittick's went through the asbestos abatement issue, and we actually had to close the building down for the balance of the spring, and we actually went in and completely renovated Chittick's and did all of the work that we needed to with asbestos, plus we did these renovations. These same renovations were done to all of our buildings that were built prior to 1974 in our previous 2008 referendum. And really what it does, it's about a $35,000 per classroom overhaul. It's new windows, it's new outside walls, it's ballasts, it's lights, it's new furniture, it gives us the opportunity, smart boards. It really gives us an opportunity to renovate and to make our older buildings look as if they're brand new. And that's really what we were able to accomplish out of that. And so in a district like Unit 5, where we have the haves and have-nots, it really gave our have-nots what they needed. In this case now, we're looking at Chittick's being done with renovations. We have Kingsley Junior High School, we have Parkside Junior High School. Both of those are schools that have got age on them. Kingsley was renovated as a built new normal community. That needs to have renovations in it. And we'd also like to have geothermal in it. And we'd like to do the same at Parkside Junior High School. Again, an older school. That school was back in the 60s, I believe. That building needs an overhaul of the interior of it with regard to the classroom renovations, but it also needs to have an overhaul with regard to our heating and cooling in that building.
And as those kids get older and go into high school age, high school renovation is?
Well, I think high schools, in our case, we know that our K-6 population now, most of those classes are about 1,100 students. And so we know when our 6th graders get to be 12th graders that means our 2 high schools are going to have over 4,000 students in the 2 of them. And I think our community at that point in time has to decide. So in the next 5 or 6 years, they're going to have to decide whether they want to add additions on to those 2 high schools we currently have, or do they want to build a 3rd high school. I don't think that this is a process, the sales tax isn't about whether we need a 3rd high school or expand it, but it provides us the opportunity to plan for that when the day and time comes that we need to do that.
District 87 doesn't grow at the same rate that Unit 5 does, so the money from the sales tax, if it is approved, what would it be used for?
Well, in our case, outside of having to build a new school, because unlike Unit 5, we do not have the growth issues that they have. We're a very stable population, so maintaining our buildings is of top priority. we would do some of the similar things that Gary just talked about, renovating classrooms, bringing them up to the 21st century. We would put roofs on our buildings on an appropriate cycle. A good example of that is Bloomington High School. That roof is over 20 years old now, and it's due for a new roof. And that is going to cost us anywhere from about $3.2 to $4 million, which is a lot of money. And if we are doing those types of projects on a consistent basis, which we will, it's just like taking care of your home. You have to make sure that your furnace is working well, your air conditioner, your roof, and there are cycles that school districts, just like you do as a home, have to upkeep and replace those items. And that's the route that we will look to. We will remodel in some cases. We've done a lot of work with our library at the high school, our cafeteria, and when you look at the magnet flagship school in Bloomington, it's Bloomington High School. When you walk into that building, the auditorium is a piece that is very functional right now, but it's very different when you see the remodeling work that has gone on elsewhere. And so that's an area that we would like to remodel. We wouldn't be able to do that with the normal course of action that we're on now. However, we can get by without it, but when you talk about things that we really need to get done, we're talking about the roofs, the boilers, the chillers, the floors, all those things that are very important on a day-to-day basis for education.
I think the one issue, though, that we didn't address in our two conversations, and I think it's a change. Sandy Hook and what happened in Sandy Hook is in our last referendum, one of our board members said, I'm not voting for this unless there's safety and security in this. And we went out and spent about $10 million on locking down our buildings. And Unit 5 was a district where pretty much you could come in and out of any door at any time. And going to access doors, getting more security cameras in place, spending more time on figuring out how we lock down our buildings so that we have only those that we want in the building that need to be in the building is really important. And then for us, in September, for us on September 7th, when we went through our shooting in our own building, again, that didn't stop that shooting, but it also does deter and stop people from just coming in our buildings. And we really believe that the cameras, the security, the access that we need to have in our schools is an ongoing issue for us and something that we have to keep our schools up and ready to be able to go into. And so security and safety is the number one thing that we also have to keep at the top of our list and make sure our kids are safe on a day-to-day basis in our buildings.
Your board passed the referendum, and all school districts in McLean County had to come to an agreement, but passed it unanimously?
They did.
And yours had two naysayers.
2 no votes, correct.
What was the issue with them?
I think that's just a philosophical tax issue, quite frankly, and that's a question that I think you really need to pose to them as individuals. But there is a philosophy, not just here in this community, but in the country, of whenever someone talks about new taxes, the alarm bells go off. What we found, and Gary found this in a survey that was put out to samples of voters in McLean County, the more that people learned and understood about this tax, that helped them to make a decision. And that's really all that we would ask, is that people get very informed about this, understand what is taxed, what is not taxed, what it can be used for, how districts are going to use it. All of those things people should become very knowledgeable about to understand this tax, and then when they go to the voting booth, they have a well-informed vote.
We've talked about what it can be used for. What is taxed, what is exempt from the tax if it passes?
Well, pretty much anything you can drive. So that's your RV, your car, your boat, your farm equipment, any of those types of things are not taxed under this system. Also your prescription drugs and those types of things. That's really important for people to know. So anything that's not taxed now, we're not adding another tax. It's what's taxed now, but those are exemptions. Those are the things I just mentioned that they will not have to pay for. I think that it's important for people to understand and know that the two that are there that probably stick out, that if you're looking at that, is your gasoline. And again, we sell a lot of gasoline in McLean County with 3 interstates that feed us. That'll be one that we'll get some of the 1% on. But 37% of our funding is going to, new revenue funding will come from outside McLean County. And I really think that's an important factor for people to recognize. What are we getting for this? Well, we're getting 37 cents out of every dollar will come from a non-resident. And I think that should help some of our McLean County voters look at this differently. And I think the other one thing that I wanted to add to this part of it is that we have a lot of our county schools and county communities, villages and towns that shop in Bloomington Normal. And they really don't get anything in return for shopping there. Now they're going to get at least the 1% back per student back into their communities. And people say, well, this is going to drive down business. I think it's actually going to make our county people look at the opportunity to shop in Bloomington Normal, because they're going to get something back for shopping in Bloomington Normal. And that's something we've never had before. And I really think that our county schools, besides Unit 5 and District 87, find this thing to be a lot more palatable than I think originally we may have thought they would.
For clarification, food is not taxed if it is unprepared.
Right.
Basic groceries.
Right.
Restaurants, of course, would be taxed. Clothing would be taxed.
Correct.
Let's talk dollars. How much is this going to raise countywide?
Well, it's estimated for the county, I think, about $16 million, and that is split based on your student population. So as you look at the districts, Unit 5 would receive the majority of that based on the fact that they have the most students in the county. District 87 would be next. So it's based on a per student basis. And when Gary mentioned that dollars go back to the county schools, that's an important thing. It's based solely on where the student resides. So in my case, District 87 would get approximately anywhere from $3.6 to $4 million, depending on what numbers you look at or how many sales go on over the course of the year. Unit 5 will get about double that, and then the county schools will get a little bit less than that as they go down in enrollment.
This is an increase of 1% if approved. Right now, McLean County is at 7.75%, so this would go to 8.75%. Do you have a concern that, and there has been some discussion, nothing in paper, but there's been discussion there might be a public safety tax, there might be a transportation tax because the federal government might not fund transportation as much as it has. And all of a sudden we might be pushing 10% at some point. Is there some concern that the sales tax might have a limit?
Well, one of the things I like about the sales tax, again, versus all the others that you've just talked about, is actually the voters get a chance to vote for this in McLean County. In all the other taxes you're talking about, the safety tax or the soccer tax or the community center tax or a safety tax for the county, all of those take a simple majority of your city council or your county board or those entities. In this case, we're asking everyone that wants to vote and has the opportunity to vote to have their input on this. And we really think that's an important difference between the two. And so if the majority that we get in the election wants to do this, then everybody's had their opportunity. And I think when it's done in that format, I think it puts it at a much more public eye and also gives them an opportunity to vote yes or no on it.
Let's take a look at the history of this referendum, because it is on a county-by-county basis. The law was enacted originally in 2007. Since that time, 59 counties have attempted to pass some form of sales tax increase for school construction. 17 of those referenda, 17 of the 59 passed. A year ago, in the Channel 47 viewing area, Fulton, LaSalle, Marshall, Tazewell, and Woodford all failed. Henry and Livingston passed. Is there something about McLean County that you remain hopeful?
Well, when you look at McLean County, we have 3 major interstates that come through here. We have an airport that is here. We have a really good transportation system. We have a lot of tourism, a major university, a couple of major insurance corporations. So there's a lot of people that come to this community that don't necessarily live here, and they might be here for short amounts of time. So those dollars that Gary had mentioned, that 37% coming from people who live outside of the county, that's a pretty substantial number compared to other counties that have made the attempt to pass this. And every county's different. But when you look at McLean County and the amount of traffic that comes through here, being basically in the center of Peoria, Champaign, St. Louis, and Chicago, there's a lot of stops that happen in this county, and people, whether they're eating out at restaurants, getting gas, shopping at the malls, that don't necessarily live here, that would contribute to the buildings of the schools. I think that's something that is appreciated by local folks, or at least the possibility of that would be appreciated.
With that, rural counties might not have as good an opportunity to pass such a law if a referendum were placed in the rural counties. So that would turn our attention to, is the state of Illinois considering something on a statewide basis?
Well, I think they've put it out county by county, but I think we look over at Iowa, the whole state of Iowa has this in place. And really honestly, when we look at revenues, I mean, Barry talked about that, from what are the state of Illinois looking at for a revenue source for education. Very honestly, I think when we have to look back on this, I think we'll look back and say the sales tax may be one of the more consistent revenue sources that we could possibly put in place, particularly for our school facilities. But I think there's going to be a day and time that we have to look at something besides property taxes, because our property taxes right now in McLean County, most everybody is not happy with how high they are. If we can help reduce that and help people understand how that transformation will happen over time, I think there's a lot of people that would be willing to take that on and take that as an opportunity.
Dr. Riley, what if this fails?
Well, in our case, we will still have projects that need to be done, and we're actually spending the last of our bond and interest money this summer for work that we will do. We will have to look to probably borrow some more money, and of course that would extend the debt that we currently have. We will not be able to do all of the projects that we have slated in that 10-year plan. We will have to prioritize those. We will certainly prioritize those regardless, but it will allow us to do less if this does not pass.
And likewise in Unit 5?
Well, I think in Unit 5, we made a conscious effort. Obviously, back in 2008, we did pass. We're very fortunate to be able to pass, a $96.7 million bond referendum. We didn't think we could do that again, and we feel like this is the one option, the one trade-off that might make it pliable for our McLean County voters. And so I think if this doesn't pass, then I think more than likely we're going to want to try to do it again, or see what we did wrong and try to build on it, the base of what we found that our base was, and we need to get a few more votes in. But I think our board will probably go back and try it again, just simply because we think this is a much better option than going back to them again with regard to a property tax.
Might it be less than 1% the next time you do it?
Those are always possibilities, but again, I think we looked at those needs in the beginning. I think we analyzed that 1 cent in the beginning, and we looked at what we thought our needs were going to be. And I think the money that we're going to receive in Unit 5 was placed appropriately with regard to the 1 cent.
This doesn't address the big gorilla, the education fund. You have a crystal ball?
Boy, if I did, I'd be a very popular guy. Unfortunately, I don't. When I look at the challenges that we have in the state of Illinois when it comes to education, the challenges are many. And when you look at, many districts have already reduced staff, they've reduced programs or cut programs. There's not a whole lot left that they can go back to the well to do that. And on top of it, we have a looming pension issue that is going into the courts. There's discussion that there always is the possibility that the state would be interested in shifting the cost to the local districts, and if that happens, then who knows where things are going to go with funding for education. But I don't see those challenges going away. Certainly the infrastructure of buildings and what kids would go to will be better off if we have funding available to address those things. Paying for the actual people that are in those classrooms is a different issue, and I don't see that going away anytime soon.
Well, The voters now have their turn. They can go to the ballot, and cast a ballot rather, at the polls at the spring primary. Peoria County, McLean County, DeWitt County, and others all face this 1% sales tax increase for capital improvements in school districts. Again, it doesn't address the education aspect of that. I'd like to say thank you to Dr. Barry Riley, who is the superintendent at District 87 in Bloomington, and likewise his counterpart, retiring Dr. Gary Niehaus. When do you retire?
June 30th,
June 30th?
2014.
Congratulations in advance
you.
on your retirement. Unit 5 Superintendent Dr. Gary Niehaus. And we thank you for joining us on At Issue. We'll be back in 1 week with another edition of At Issue. Please join us then.